Personal correspondence. Once your proposal is all done and approved, you will need to stay in touch with all the people involved. We do that with personal correspondence documents, so emails, memos, and letters. The confusing thing that comes with our email, memo, letter situation is that they can be both the document itself or they can be the medium to deliver other types of content. An email can be just an email, or it can be the way I deliver my memo. A memo can be a memo, or it could be the container for my progress report. As a document form and package, emails, memos, and letters share common structural elements. So first, you're going to have a letterhead or the contact information of the company. Basically, this is when you see, a logo and all the official elements at the top or sometimes the bottom of a page. Then you have what is called the attention line. Just think of that as the to line, basically who needs to pay attention to this document. Then we have some sort of subject or headline for the overall topic. In your email platform, you have a form field to actually type in. For letters and memos, it can go after all the addressee information. The subject line makes it easier to store, search, and reference that document. If you are using the email, memo, or letter as a cover document or a delivery indicator for another document, we also like to include an enclosure statement. That is kind of a holdover tradition from when we are faxing things around. I never experienced that, but I hear and understand that things would sometimes get shuffled or not transmitted after the first page. Of course, today with our digital files, we see the attachment note right in the email platform and the page count in Adobe Reader when we open a packet, so it's not as big of a deal. Still, it's a good thing to safeguard and just write enclosure budget spreadsheet for Q3 in your email, memo, or letter to be direct and let people know that there is more content to expect. Now, content structure-wise, all three follow a narrative sequence, just meaning each section really builds on the prior. We still allow and low-key expect the audience to skip and scan around, but the intention is to start with the context situation to set up the body details and then end with the conclusion or summary of everything. You can use headings, bullet lists, and all of our other skip, scan, skim features of design. It is less common to include visuals in these documents, but it can happen if the situation needs it. Let's talk about why each specific personal correspondence exists with an example. So, emails first. If I'm writing an email and treating it as a genre, it's almost always going to be a much smaller audience, a one-to-few or one-to-one situation. We place the direct recipients in the to line that indicates you expect a response or that the person takes action on the info. We can place other readers in the CC line, which means courtesy copy, and basically we don't expect a response or action from that person. They just need the FYI, basically. Be really sure that somebody needs to be on your CC so you aren't clogging their inbox. And if you're sending an email to a lot of people and you don't really have an expectation for them to reply, you're actually probably using email as the delivery method for some other genre, like a newsletter or an announcement. A great example of this from our class. When I email you directly, let's say your project file isn't opening for me, I expect a reply and action from you. Only your email address is in the to line and I'm using email as the message. But when I post an announcement to Canvas, which does trigger an email to the whole class, I don't expect any responses. In that case, the email is a secondary delivery system for the announcement. With email formatting, your letterhead is built into the email platform with your email, the recipient's email, and the date. And then you have your subject line. Give them the big picture, draw attention to any actions or expectations, and let them know the content. Anything more than 8-ish words will probably be cut off depending on the recipient's screen size that they're checking their email on. So for example, if you're sending out an email about the upcoming budget meeting to your team, an annoying subject line that I would receive would be reminder and some notes about details about the meeting on Friday, because it front loads the vague subject, which would cause the important bit about the meeting on Friday to get cut off in my notification, and it doesn't really tell me what this is about apart from a reminder. Do you want me to read your notes? Is this just an FYI? Why are you sending this to me? A better version would be Q3 budget meeting, review proposals by Friday, because it tells them, the meeting up front. So my notification actually shows Q3 budget meeting and a hint of what the documents included and what your request actually is. This also includes some key search terms for my scanning and filtering, Q3 budget proposals. Side note, you can attach documents like the proposals in this example directly to the calendar invitation, which removes the need for the email in the first place, and it creates a linked connection across all the events. However, I have found most people don't realize or they simply forget that attachments are in the invite. Even though it is redundant and kind of annoying, it can be a better path to email anything in preparation for a meeting, depending on the culture and behavior of your team. Now, for the body of the email, start with who you're addressing it to with any variation of hi, hello. I tend to avoid time-based greetings because people will read your emails at different points, depending on their own schedules. Don't overthink this, just say hello, name. Then give them the content. Generally try to max out at 500 words because anything more than that becomes visually difficult to read with all the surrounding stuff on the email platform. Also, many people use their phones to check email, and the width resizing quickly becomes a long scroll. If you have more than a few hundred words or, a few thick paragraphs basically, then consider writing the information in a document to deliver via email. When we open a PDF or whatever, the reading experience is better optimized for that lengthy content. Even on mobile devices and small screens, it's a better read. So let's talk about email as the delivery system real quick. This is getting a little bit easier and less confusing, I think, because we are now using things like OneDrive or Google Drive to directly share files. So we don't have to really send and attach it in an email anymore. Instead, just publish and share the link directly to the people or send the link over on a system like Teams, Slack. If you need to use email, then follow the same practices for the subject line and write just 1 to 3 sentences that explain you've enclosed or attached the document and any action steps you need them to complete. Make sure that they can't open the attachment, so be mindful of any programs like sending a .pages to a non-Apple or Mac user and the editing permissions on a document appropriate to that audience. If you need them to collaborate and make comments or edits, then you need to make sure to send the shared cloud version and not attach a copy versions. Sending them a copy, or if they download and save their own copy, means that you will have completely separate file versions. On both Google and Microsoft systems, you adjust the editing and view settings when you generate that share link or attach that cloud file. I'm going to describe a real-world example email that I received just to discuss a few other elements here. So the subject line reads, "What is your computer model and serial number? Other gear we bought." It begins with, "Hi Haley," because it's a personal correspondence to me and me alone. The opening sentence states, "I'm doing my annual computer inventory and I don't have your gear listed on the sheet I have to submit to the powers that be." The big topic is the computer inventory stated in the first clause of that sentence. In this case, the purpose statement is actually implied. The author doesn't actually say, and this email requests that information from you or anything like that. In for emails, that definitely happens more and is okay because they are typically so short and direct. I do really want you, as you're learning and practicing, to really focus on writing explicit purpose statements as a best practice. But in this case, the orientation is, hey, this is about the annual computer inventory and I'm missing some information. And then the purpose I understood is basically, I'm writing this to ask you for the info. After that, they have the actual information in other contexts. It lists out the 3 specific questions I need to answer when I reply. The whole thing is only about 100 words broken into 3 distinct paragraphs or sections: the intro, the questions, and a concluding thought. Then they sign off with a piece and their name. Now, sign-offs are personal to you. I like to go with vibes. The common professional ones, though, don't overthink it, are thanks, best, and regards. They work for all messages, no matter your familiarity with the audience, unlike a sincerely, truly, and yours, which have a bit more personal connotation and edge to them. You can search for all sorts of memes and Reddit threads on what your signature means about you as a joke, but also not a joke, and make your decision from there. But whatever you choose, keep it to 1 to 2 words and then have your name or initials. In emails, we also have a signature line that typically includes your position, role, company, organization, alternative contact info like a chat handle or phone number. You can also customize it with logos, banners, personal links, your pronouns, and name pronunciation keys as well. Now, in a different, longer example, I received a one-to-many email message, unlike the one-to-one before. It follows the same structure, just with more content and instructions. The subject line reads, "Please complete Spring no-show progress survey." It tells me right away what content and actions are required, which also makes it easy to search in my inbox with keywords like the progress survey. And then 200-ish word email is broken into paragraph 1, orientation, to the academic progress reports, with the statement that we are using Starfish to make reporting as easy and efficient as possible. And the implication is this email explains that process and your action steps. They have a call to action for me with the deadline and then a bulleted list of the courses I needed to complete this action on. Next, they use italics and bolding to draw my eye to the help resources and how to complete the requested actions. They end up with a final tip. There's no formal sign-off or signature here because this email is generated by a department on a campus-wide scale instead of kind of a true one-to-one personal correspondence.